Hey, what's going on YouTube? This is Devin with Jurassic Magic, and with Tarkir Dragonstorm, I've been on an absolute dragon kick. I can't tell you how much dragons I've been brewing left and right. Of course, I made Arenia of the Unwritten as a dragon commander deck, and it is a blast to play so far. However, I've explored other dragons that are a bit older, and one that I always fall back to is Scion of the Dragon. The competitiveness of me loves this type of card because it's basically just a combo machine. If I'm to be honest, this is actually the best dragon commander ever printed in my opinion, because it basically becomes any dragon you want it to be while dumping a dragon into your graveyard. So not only are you going into a reanimator theme, but you are also making Scion of the Dragon a clone of a dragon you put in the graveyard, which can be backbreaking for most opponents. And in this video, I wouldn't necessarily say it is a deck tech, however, it is basically just explaining a bunch of different combos that you could utilize with Scion of the Dragon. Of course, there are some other famous ones that you may recognize compared to others. I just wanted to give a good comprehensive list of the best combos you can utilize. And before I even begin this video, if you like what you see here on YouTube, consider like, sharing, and subscribing. That definitely goes a long way in supporting the channel, and if you want to support the channel any further, consider becoming a patron. And if you are looking for any of these singles that I talk about today, make sure to click my TCG player affiliate link. All you have to do is click on it, shop for the singles you want, and that's really it. And so now without further ado, let's talk about many combos that you could utilize with Scion of the Dragon. So one reason why I wanted to make this video is because there was a recent secret lair for Scion of the Dragon that I absolutely love. I didn't realize it was a thing until a couple of days ago someone pointed it out to me, and I've always wanted a foil of Scion of the Dragon, but I didn't want to pay a huge markup for the old version. However, there is a new rainbow version with Secret Lair, and I love this art. I love how a little bit cartoony it is, but I also love how powerful it looks. However, before even diving into the combos, we need to know what this card does. So this is a WUBRG commander costing 5 total mana. It's a legendary creature, dragon avatar with flying. You pay 2, search your library for a dragon permanent card and put it into your graveyard. If you do, Scion of the Dragon becomes a copy of that card until on a turn, then shuffle. And it also has a 4/4 body. So of course a main draw to this commander compared to other dragon commanders is the fact that this could become any dragon at any time. So you could use this offensively and defensively. Say for example tries to remove Scion of the Dragon. Well, you could just search your library for a dragon that has hexproof, put it into the graveyard, and have Scion of the Dragon have hexproof, becoming that creature. Or search your library for a Dromoka and put it into your graveyard and have nobody cast spells during your turn. Again, there's a lot of defensive ways of using Scion of the Dragon, but obviously that's not the main use. More of the main use is using him as a combo enabler, chaining a bunch of different dragons to win the game. And something I also want to debrief you about is I'm not going to go over infinite mana combos unless they involve dragons. So something like a Bomberman combo I'm not going to highlight because that doesn't involve dragons. So each section of this video is essentially just going to be one combo or various combos that are very similar. And so let's talk about the first one. So this first combo is probably the oldest trick in the Scion of the Dragon's book. You use Molten Steel Hellkite and Skithrix. The way this would work is you first search your library for Molten Steel Dragon with Scion of the Dragon, putting it into the graveyard, having Scion become a copy of Molten Steel Dragon. It has an activated ability by paying Phyrexian mana, so you can either pay 1 red mana or 2 life. And because Skithrix is a 4 power and 4 toughness creature, you want to make sure that you pump up this copy up to 10. So you either pay 6 red mana or 12 life. Then following that, you'll search your library for Skithrix, have it become a copy of Scion of the Dragon, so that way you can swing at one opponent, dealing 10 infect damage to them, and having that player get knocked out. So what's pretty neat about this combo is the fact that you can do it all at instant speed. You don't have to activate as a sorcery specifically. So if you swing in with Scion, and if nobody blocks, you could do all those activations and KO somebody instantly. Of course, that is a little bit more mean because you're picking on one specific player, and that's why I don't necessarily run it in my Scion of the Dragon decks, but obviously you're more than welcome to. So this next combo is one of my preferred methods as far as winning the game. It does involve Worldgorger Dragon and Animate Dead. Something that works really good with Scion of the Dragon is the fact that it does act as a graveyard tutor. You put something from your library into your graveyard that's a dragon, and of course if you put Worldgorger Dragon in your graveyard, you could just reanimate it by using Animate Dead or even Dance of the Dead. Because those are specifically enchantments on the battlefield, they can act as a permanent to exile with Worldgorger Dragon when it enters, and because Animate Dead left the battlefield, that means means Worldgorger Dragon has to leave the battlefield too, going into the graveyard, and this will cause a chain reaction of Animate Dead entering the battlefield again, and it could attach itself again to Worldgorger Dragon. And so why would you want to do this? Well, you could tap everything in response for mana back and forth whenever that loop is going on for infinite mana, and because Scion of the Ur Dragon is on the battlefield when you do reach that infinite mana, you can then search your library for something like Realm Scorch or Hellkite. This is one of my personal favorite options as far as blasting everybody on the table. You pay 1 and a red, and it deals 1 damage to any target. So again, you can search your library for that, put it into the graveyard, and Scion of the Ur Dragon becomes a copy of it. And before everything gets exiled again, you can hold priority, activate that ability as many times as you'd like, blasting everybody on the table and winning the game that way. So this next combo is a little cheeky. I don't really recommend it too much. However, I do like Niv-Mizzet Perun as a great enabler to draw a bunch of cards during the game, because whenever you draw a card, Niv-Mizzet deals 1 damage to any target, and whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery spell, you draw a card, almost like a mini Ristic Study, where when people are casting spells, you get to draw cards. So if you have a Curiosity in your hand, you could essentially win that game on that specific turn. You use Scion of the Ur Dragon's activated ability to put Niv-Mizzet into the graveyard, having it become a copy of it. Then you attach Curiosity to it and cast an instant or sorcery spell so that you can start the loop of pinging everybody down and drawing your whole entire deck. Of course, if you want to stop the loop, you could target a creature on the battlefield and then try to find a win from there. So this next combo is pretty cheeky. I actually discovered it because one of my friends played this against me, and I did not see it coming at all because I'd actually never really heard of this. A lot of you are probably pretty familiar with Ancient Gold Dragon. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you roll a d20. You create a number of 1/1 Blue Fairy Dragon creature tokens with flying equal to the result. So this one pairs nicely either with Dragon Tempest or Scourge of Valkis. Let's just go into the hypothetical situation where you only have Scion of the Ur Dragon on the battlefield and Dragon Tempest. You swing in, and if you're not blocked, you search your library for Ancient Gold Dragon, put it into the graveyard, and have Scion become a copy of it. And let's just say you just roll 10. Well, that would mean 10 dragons are entering the battlefield simultaneously, and with Scion of the Ur Dragon also on the battlefield, you get to spread 11 damage 10 times to each of your opponent's face. Of course, depending on what you roll, if you roll like a 1, well, sorry. And if you roll high like a 20, well, you're definitely absolutely winning. Of course, what if you don't have Dragon Tempest on the battlefield? That is completely okay. Let's just say, let's go back to that situation where you swing in with Scion of the Ur Dragon and have it become a copy of Ancient Gold Dragon. When it connects in response to that trigger of making tokens, you can have Scion of the Ur Dragon become a copy of Scourge of Valkis. So that way you can still get that effect efficiently, all for really just 4 mana in that turn. Because Scourge of Valkis and Dragon Tempest are essentially the same thing, where whenever a dragon enters the battlefield under your control, it deals X damage to target creature or player, where X is the number of dragons you control. So this will definitely help you close out the game using either these two options and Ancient Gold Dragon. And with this last combo, I'm kind of bunching it all together for extra combats. You need dragons that'll help you produce mana, like Old Gnawbone, Ancient Copper Dragon, or even Cavern Horde Dragon. There's other dragons that could produce mana, but at the velocity of these ones, I think these are the best ones. You could also throw in Savage Ventmaw too, because it does produce 6 mana, so that is another option too. So you need mana producers, and you also need extra combat enablers. For example, Aggravated Assault and Hellkite Charger. So let's first talk about Aggravated Assault. This is the easier option compared to Hellkite Charger, because Hellkite Charger has a little bit of extra steps. With Aggravated Assault, it is easier to get those extra combats because all you have to do is pay 5 mana, and with Old Gnawbone, Ancient Copper Dragon, Cavern Horde Dragon, and Savage Ventmaw, as long as you're producing 5 or more mana, you can just swing in, have Scion become a copy of one of those, get the mana produced, dump that mana into Aggravated Assault, get that extra combat, go back and forth until everybody's annihilated. So obviously that's one way to get infinite combats. You could also use Hellkite Charger, which again is a little harder to utilize. Whenever it attacks, you may pay 5 and 2 red. If you do, untap all attacking creatures, and after this phase there's an additional combat phase. So one upside this has over Aggravated Assault is the fact that it is a dragon. It's easier to tutor up this with Scion of the Ur Dragon, have it become a copy of it, and if you have one of those mana producers, you could go ahead for the infinite combats. But this does require a little bit more setup, because let's just say hypothetically you swing in with Old Gnawbone and this, but you don't have any mana. Since Hellkite Charger's ability is is a triggered ability and not an activated ability, it will require you to trigger it before you deal combat damage, which won't work with Old Gnawbone because Old Gnawbone is a deals damage trigger. So in order to start this combo properly, you do need to have 7 mana, so that way when you swing in with Hellkite Charger and Old Gnawbone, you could activate that ability, go into the extra combat, and not only that, gain that treasured in combat damage so that you could reactivate that ability when you go into your second, third, fourth, and infinite combats. So again, the preferred method is aggravated assault because it's clean, efficient. However, Hellkite Charger can be tutored with your commander, so there is benefits to both. Either way, infinite combats is more of my jam, and I absolutely love to utilize. So now with all that said, that is going to do it for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming by and watching this quick video on Scion of the Dragon. I know technically it's not a deck tech. These are more combos that you could utilize in your own decks. Of course, depending on which way you want to go, these all can be viable options for you. But let me know down below in the comments, what are your thoughts and opinions? Do you believe this is the best commander for dragons specifically? I think as far as power level goes, this is definitely the best one by far because it basically becomes any dragon in your arsenal. You are in 5 colors compared to 3 colors, like with Miriam or Rennie, so this does have that distinct advantage. And I think this is better than Dragon, even though Dragon does have a cost reducing option. But other than that, I think it's pretty overrated. 5 mana compared to 9 mana makes Scion of the Dragon a lot better. And I think this is better than Tiamat because even though you are searching your library for 5 dragons, Scion of the Dragon is just much more of a combo enabler in my opinion because you can get onto the battlefield earlier. You pay colorless investments to search your library for specific dragons and win the game that way. So I do think that Scion of the Dragon is probably the best dragon that we do have as far as power level goes. In a casual setting, not so much. I don't think it's necessarily a casual commander. But again, let me know down below in the comments. Also, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And with that out of the way, thank you for stomping by.